Hola, hermanos y hermanas. Bienvenidos a El Vestidor. Bendiciones. Soy Jim Carmack, y you probably want to do this in English, don't you? Is that going to be better for you?
I would prefer it.
Okay.
Because, bienvenidos,
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I got that part.
We can do the rest then. If you got welcome, you're good.
Yeah. Are you going to refer to me as Jaime today?
That's the one thing, it was always awkward. I had more misspellings of my name in Latin American countries just because when they ask you for your name and they say Jim, it always comes with a Y or with another version of it.
Right.
So yeah, it's always interesting.
In Spanish, Jaime, James, is more of a nickname. Technically, get this from Susan Walker, who is a Spanish descendant, for real. But the technical name is Santiago.
Right.
And my other good friend, Jock Hestris, has informed me that also Diego, as in San Diego, St. James. So Diego is technically Spanish for James. And you put it together with San, which is saint, and Santiago becomes kind of a contraction of San Diego.
Right.
So I like
Saint
Santiago.
Iago. Yeah, have you gone down that road for a while? Because you start tracing that back where James goes down that road, and you get to Jacob or Yaakov.
That's
and
right.
All those things. So
yeah,
the
and that's
fun.
exactly right. James is a Grecian form, a Hellenist form of the Hebrew Jacob. So technically, Jacob and James are the same name.
Yeah, which is cool.
Which I think is pretty cool.
Hey, welcome to the Locker Room. I'm Jim Carmack. This is Pastor Jim Locke, which is where we get the name in English, although it doesn't translate as well. But I thought I'd give you a little bit of flair. But that's
well, we've just demonstrated how we are a compendia of otherwise useless information
and multilingual, and we do that too. We like to accommodate. I just thought I'd bring a little of that back with us, and I
love it.
I had to ask Zoma what they would call the locker room because I haven't really heard that term.
Well, I don't know. It's a good
in
question.
Spanish, and she said vestidor. Would be one that would kind of be, but she said kind of they'd call it locker room. So it's more of an Englishized version or word that they would use.
Well, I just know you had a great time
in
El Salvador.
We did. We had a tremendous time, and I'm glad my seat was still empty. I was concerned Gavin would be sitting back in the host
chair. I'm telling you, man,
chair.
Gavin wears a coat of many colors, and he is a jack of all trades. But he did an outstanding job, and so. He's kind of, you're at the place now in this chair that you occupy that I kind of have arrived at in the pulpit where I don't lose a lot of sleep when I'm not there.
Yeah.
Because you got really capable people who can come in behind you. Gavin did a great job. He was very well prepared, as our audience would attest. He had his questions thoughtfully organized and then shifted on the fly a couple of times in a way that I thought was really good. So we had a good time. But we missed you. I'm glad you're back.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, Tracy and I, my wife, got to spend some time in El Salvador, a place that we love being.
So Central America, otherwise hot and humid, was it tolerable weather for you?
The day that we left, we flew from here to Atlanta because we went through Delta, as you mentioned on Sunday.
Yeah.
And it was 50-something in Delta in that morning when we left. So it was a little chilly. We had the jackets on and flew. When we landed in San Salvador, it was 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It was so hot.
Air temperature.
Man, it was so hot. So hot. But also really good. And it wasn't off the wall. It was really great weather for the week. Very dry. It's their dry season there. And so we didn't see really any rain while we were there. It's very dusty conditions. But man, just a great time being a place. It's near to our hearts, as you know, and a lot of our people know. And just to spend some time with the people there that we know and love and get away a little bit was really a blessing. And then we've got a mission team coming up at the end of June that we're taking. And so we wanted to spend a little time planning there with.
You had a little business.
We did.
To take care of while you're down there.
Got some kind of vision
to get
casting.
ready for your July trip.
What we could do better and that kind of thing. So really good. Really great week to be away.
Then you got down there to La Libertad.
We did.
And those nice Pacific breezes, right? That made a difference, didn't it?
Since you brought it up, let me share the story. So, Hillcrest has a partnership with Word of Life. And so we have some of our even students go to Word of Life Argentina. There's a Bible Institute there. We have a Word of Life Ecuador that our people have been involved with for years.
Sure.
We're connected with India in other locations around the world. And so I found out there's a Word of Life camp in El Salvador, which is in La Libertad, which is down near the coast, right by the Pacific Ocean. And so I thought this is a great way to make the connection and go down and just introduce ourselves and just let them know that we exist. And, they know the same people we know. And so it was a really good time meeting the directors there and talking to them about their vision and opportunities to bring teams and that sort of stuff, just to be involved. So we were down there on the coastline. We have some other connections down there in El Tunco and some other places. So we thought, well, we'll just pop on over, drive down the beach, just maybe grab a quick bite to eat or something like that. So we left the camp and we're driving toward the beach, and they're doing a ton of construction in that area. So we get into this construction. I'm following the map on my phone, which tells me to take a right and go down this main road. Well, I get there, I go to take a right, and it's one-way traffic. All the lanes are full coming straight at me. So I start to turn and quickly turn back and zoomed across the road to the other side. And I said, I don't know where to go from here. And I look up, and there's a man standing there across the street holding a menu to a restaurant and a little concrete parking space right here. And he just does like this. And I said, perfect. So we pull into this space. It was right on the water. And it was right there, and the waves are crashing, and the scenery is beautiful. So we got out. It was a little side tiny restaurant. It wasn't anything super fancy. It was beautiful. It was on the water, but we just had some nice shrimp and some chicken bites and some French fries. But it was a great kind of just exhale. It was a beautiful way to kind of spend that afternoon, just being there on the water. We talked, we prayed. It was funny. We prayed there, just for our family and just all the things. It was really, really a good time. So grateful for those blessings.
Celebrating 30 years of marriage.
Years. Which is, we crossed that line, a couple years back.
Congratulations.
But we were married longer than we were single, which is, you get to that point, it's like, it's funny because, we went back and we talked about our wedding and the season of that time in the season of life and what we were doing and who we were. And it's kind of wild. You just, this is what we know now. And we're so blessed and so grateful. And you just think about, gosh, if you had told either of us, on our wedding day, in 30 years, this is where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing.
You'd have been rolling on the ground laughing.
No way. Are you kidding? What are you talking about? For both of us. And again, I don't mean that in a bad way, but just
same for us.
There's just no way we could have ever anticipated this. But God is good, and that's the testimony. God is good. Trust him with that, with your future and all those things, because, walking in his will and by his Spirit leading is better than anything you can plan for yourselves. And that's what was so cool. We had our plans and our hopes and our dreams, and we failed miserably on those. And God is faithful. And so we're grateful for that God brought us to this position and this place. And so, yeah, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. But yeah, we're so blessed to be here, be a part of what our church is and what we're called to do. And so wonderful. So,
a lot of, a couple of weeks ago, Gary and Renee Cologne, shout out to them, 40 years.
That's awesome.
And their anniversary fell on a Sunday, 1 month. Hence from that, mine and Judy's 40th anniversary. So y'all were married in 96. We were married in 86.
Yeah.
And seems just like yesterday.
Yeah.
I could walk you down most of hour by hour of the day we got married, and even, before then. So lots of milestones going down this year, which is very great.
40 years for you too. And again, you spent a lot of that time here, 25 now years at Hillcrest, right? 20, sorry.
20, going on 21.
21, that's right. Here at Hillcrest. And so half that time, being here.
Half of our married life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even thought about that, but that's basically true. Half of our married life has been spent at Hillcrest.
And substantial transitions for that, from your kids being young, almost teenagers or in that zone, to now being married and having kids and you being grandparents and that sort of thing. So
we actually dated 4 years before we got married.
Okay.
We took our first date on my 19th birthday, which is
baby.
easy for me to
You guys are
remember.
babies.
Yeah. We were still in college, and we went to high school but never dated in high school. And we took our first date on my 19th birthday. Long story with that we will get into today, but have never dated anybody else since that first date.
Wow.
Which is wild. So we've actually been together for 44 years. We dated 3 years. I graduated college on a Friday in May, proposed to Judy the next day, and then we were married 1 year to the day after my date of proposal.
Wow.
Yeah, and we used that year basically to both get kind of established in workaday world. And we bought some furniture, bought some appliances. Back in the day when layaway was a thing, you know,
Yeah.
I don't even know if layaway is a thing anymore.
Yeah.
But we went down to one of the department stores in Nashville, Kane Sloan, I believe it was at the time, and put a sofa and a love seat on layaway. Paid for it a little bit at a time over
Yeah.
6 months, got it paid for. Bought a washer and a dryer, did it the same way, put it on layaway a little bit at the time, got it paid for. And then we got married and had set up housekeeping, and everything in the house was
already paid.
already paid for. But
great.
you know, yeah, just God's been so great over that period because, man, took one date. It was a disaster of a date.
Why?
Well, because I didn't know what I was doing, and I made a bad mistake. We went out to the dinner was good. We went out to dinner and a movie. And the dinner was good. We went out to a restaurant in Nashville that I liked, and we had a wonderful time. But the movie choice was not the best. It was one of those seasons where there just wasn't a lot of good choices at the movies.
Okay.
And so I took Judy to see the Amityville Horror. I did.
Were you hoping she'd, get scared and cling
You
to
know, I made a terrible assumption. This is the problem with assuming things, and everybody's heard the joke. And I'm a living embodiment of it because I assumed, as with my genre, running around buddies and everything, everybody saw horror movies.
Right.
You know, if it was Stephen King, and I don't recommend it today.
Yeah,
I've grown a lot since then. But everybody went to horror movies back in the 80s and didn't think twice about it. But we have grown and matured and seasoned well.
Amen.
And we see the error of
called
our ways.
sanctification.
And I made the terrible mistake that Judy was a run of the mill, and she was not, has never been, and still is not run of the mill anything. And so, yes, I remember going home and my mother had waited up for me. How did it go? And I said, well, I think I'm one and done.
Uh-oh.
I think it's, I struck out. She said, what? And then she lit into me, which didn't help matters. What were you thinking? You know, I've raised you better than this. It was terrible. And so, man, I was just getting whiplashed from both sides. But fortunately, she was a sweet and forgiving and very gracious spirit. And I did apologize for that. I said we'd have been better off just going home and drinking hot chocolate for a while on the couch. And I waited a couple of weeks, and at the encouragement of my mother, you need to call her back, but make a better decision. And there was a ice cream parlor / restaurant in Nashville called Swenson's, and we went and got our second date was going for a sandwich at the grill at Swenson's and hot fudge sundaes.
Ice cream.
Yeah.
Probably
so I
a better
recovered
idea.
nicely,
Probably a better idea.
and she loved that better. So
Yeah.
I recovered nicely, and of course the rest is history.
So you call that your first date from now on. So let me ask you what my kids ask me. How did you know, and when did you know that she was going to be the one?
I think pretty quick. Judy was and still is just the loveliest ever. And I realized, when she said yes that first time, I just thought that I had, won the lottery. Because, talking about out kicking your coverage, I really had I was kind of a geek, nose in a book all the time, pretty studious guy. But Judy's a pretty serious person too. And so I had that going for us. So from just the physical standpoint, I thought, man, I've knocked it out of the park. I've hit it over the porch at Tiger Stadium. And then, I think after a few dates, you judge compatibility and there's an it factor there. And I think when is when, man, you just can't wait for the next time.
Yeah.
And that just never went away. And so it didn't take very long, probably 2 or 3 days. Once I got over that initial stuff and realized, this can probably work, I would say it was within the first several weeks.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is going to be a thing, I believe. And so, yeah, I never was interested in anybody else.
Wow.
After that. Never had a second thought.
That's cool. Do you think that's still applicable today? In other words, we teach our young adults, hey, it's worth saving yourself for. It's worth committing to someone and making that process be intentional, because our culture just wants you to try things out and sample everything and so make your way around just to see who you're going to like. Is there something good to still hold on to that?
I think those core
ideal?
principles are still the same. I mean, the whole approach to dating is radically different now.
Sure.
I mean, neither of my kids really dated. They did stuff in groups. I mean, it was more of a herd mentality.
Yeah.
These groups of people would show up at the house, or these groups of people would go and do things. And so it was kind of a different approach. And now that my kids are, have been married for a while, I'm not even sure what the current state of affairs are in terms of dating, courtship, or if those things are even still much of a thing anymore. I was having this conversation with my daughter the other night because she's been asked to do a breakout session at this upcoming women's thing, and her breakout session has to do with this very thing that we're talking about. And so we were dialoguing about it and a little bit, just for a few minutes. And I realized, man, when you guys were kids, it was just different than the way that we went about things, back when I was a teenager, which just seems like so long ago. But I think, last time I checked, kids are still getting married.
Yeah.
And so I think that the core principles of relationships, I think, are still the same. How you finally arrive at that. Now, when Seth got to college, because, Whitney and Derek were high school sweethearts. They became kind of an item when they were juniors in high school, though they rarely went out on a date by themselves. They were always, they were either with us or, with other couples or whatever. But then Seth met his wife at college. And so that was a little more of traditional meeting people
Dating,
at social events and going out with them and the like.
Yeah.
So it became that for him. So he went from kind of the herd mentality, doing things in a group dynamic, to a much more traditional way of doing things there at Samford. So I think the core principles are, at some point, you've got to get down to brass tacks, and you've got to get to know a particular person.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is through time.
Right.
And spending time with them in appropriate kinds of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a challenge. Well, congratulations on coming up on 40 years. That's
thank
fantastic.
you. Plenty of congratulations to go around.
Yeah.
Great thing to experience milestones together in relationships, for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, we need to talk sermon for a little bit because we're spending a lot of time.
Where did all of that come
I know.
from?
I don't know.
I mean,
This is the difference, because Gavin filled in here and he did outstanding. But you said he wrote his questions. He was prepared. I go from the seat of my pants. I wing it.
You are Elmer Fudd, rabbit chaser.
I chase rabbits wherever they go. Well, that's what the people want. You give the people what they want. They want to know a little bit about you.
Well, that's a little bit,
scenes,
for sure.
We'll talk more. We'll figure more of this stuff.
Yep.
So we're in we're in a series on heaven for now. Yeah. And so I missed the conversation last week, but I caught up to what we covered. But my question for you is, we're in week 2 of this. It's a general question. I know we'll get specific topics as we go deeper through this series. My general question for you is, Scripture does not, you don't go to the chapter on heaven. We see glimpses in Revelation. We see glimpses throughout the Gospels where Jesus talks about, I go to prepare a place for you, and it's mansions or rooms, or we see streets of gold. We see these images, these glimpses, but there's not a clear, This is what will happen in this order, in this way, in this time. So where are you drawing all this from to have a series about heaven when it's not a clear-cut, verse by verse, line by line?
You know, it's a topical series, which I always find more challenging to preach because they just require more work.
Yeah.
You know, when we're doing, and I still think that the best teaching on Sunday morning is expository preaching, where you're taking people systematically through biblical context, the letter to the Hebrews, right? Or, you know, section by section through, as we're going to do next, through Paul's letter to the Ephesians. That's the best way to establish build-up, scriptural build-up over time, and I think it's the best way to produce healthy churches. That being said, I think that you do pique people's interest with an occasional topical type series, whether it's, you know, we did a topical series on the Apostles' Creed, which was kind of doctrinal, but it dealt with different aspects of Christian theology at its simplest level. We've done topical series on relationships before. I've done series on faith before, the building blocks of great faith. So occasionally and from time to time, we'll do something along those lines, and I think people tend to profit from that. But for the preacher, the one who's preparing to do it, it requires more work because you have to take this big old comb and run it through the entirety of Scripture and kind of glean from that, what does the Bible say about this particular topic? And that takes a bit of time, and it requires quite a bit of additional reading. And that's where a lot of the ideas come from. You pull down 1, 2, or 3 systematic theology textbooks, basically. And, you know, for our audience that doesn't know what a systematic theology is, it's a compendium of basic Christian doctrine that usually goes from Revelation through the doctrine of God, the doctrine of the Spirit, the doctrine of Jesus Christ, salvation, the atonement, all the way to eschatology and everything in between.
Yeah.
So you pull down your systematic theologies by your favorite authors, and you start reading those sections that deal with eschatology, the doctrine of last things, of which heaven and hell and judgment are a part of, and you pick those to death. And, you know, most of the time you can construct kind of topics from that you'd like to address. At the same time, there are lots of books that have been written by theologians and pastors and Bible teachers on the subject of heaven and hell, more on heaven than on hell. But I tell you, I'm surprised there's not as many as you would think that are out there. In fact, you gave me one of those books. It was written by Dr. Criswell, W. Criswell, and Paige Patterson on heaven.
Yeah.
And so there are some of those books, and you can read through some of those and see how the Spirit has spoken to other men of God. And then, of course, you can pigeonhole some of those great biblical texts that do deal with heaven. Some of the parables of heaven that Jesus talked about. Most of the parables, though, don't deal so much with heaven as they do with being shut out of heaven. And there's quite a bit in the Synoptic Gospels about that.
Yeah.
You know, we've already looked at one passage from John where Jesus was teaching his disciples about heaven. That's probably as significant from Jesus as it gets on heaven itself. And he really doesn't give us a lot of information in there. He gives us the basics, that it's a place, that he's developing it for his people, those who know him by faith, and that he's coming back to get those who belong to him. And that's where we'll be forever. And in order to know that you're going to have a place there, you got to come through him to secure your entry. And then you go to places like the parable of the 10 virgins, where half of them were ready when the bridegroom came, and half of them were unprepared when the bridegroom came. And when the unprepared lamps went out, they had to go searching for oil, and they missed the bride. or the bridegroom rather, when he came, and by the time they caught up with everybody, the party was going on inside and the door was shut.
They're locked out. Yeah.
And then the door was never opened. Well, that's a teaching about the importance of being prepared. And of course, there are many others that are like that. Jesus said, "Not everyone who says unto me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only those who do the will." So there are illusions all throughout, and you have to extract those. And then from all of your reading, this is the same principle that I use to prepare week in and week out. Regardless, I read myself full. Read yourself full. And then from that comes the topical structure of the series. Here are the things that I'd like to touch on. And I put that together last summer when I was away in July for vacation / my semi-annual preaching planning getaway. And I put together all those topics. And then once I've got that down, I know where I'm going. Now I know what I'm shooting at and shooting for. And then it becomes week to week at that point, doing the work of preparation. And then I send that out to all appropriate parties, from my ministry assistant all the way to Heath Wilson, Jim Carmack, anybody that's liable to have to fill in for me at any given time will get that order of preaching topics, and then it gets changed 12 times.
Right, then you get redirected.
So I've got everything that in place, and I've had it in place for a while, and then once that's done, I begin the work of
putting them together,
week by week. And I'm about, I'm about 4 sermons in. So I'm a little ahead of the game because I've been working on this for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm not week to week. I'm a little bit ahead, kind of have an idea where we're going. So
with something like heaven, and I know nothing is impossible for God, but do you think there is part of heaven that is indescribable or not able to be understood by our human 3.5 dimension existence that we are in when we're talking about an extra dimensionality or something that is not, that we've never seen, tasted, or experienced? Do you think there is something to that where it's almost not able to be described? Or do you think that's why we're given glimpses of things we can compare it to?
No, I think it's mostly beyond the realm of the finite human mind completely grasping it, because we are just given glimpses. And I hope that I don't end up disappointing a lot of people. Because, when you start announcing you're going to talk about heaven, okay, he's finally going to answer for me
all the questions.
Whether Fido is going to be with me in heaven.
Right.
Or, is my dog going to be there? Are we going to be able to procreate in heaven? I mean, it's
can
just
I play the banjo when I get there?
Can I play the banjo in heaven or whatever?
Yeah.
I'm going to do very little of that because it's speculation. I mean, I encourage people, get Randy Alcorn's book. He'll go into just about every conceivable question.
But there's an amount of speculation in
but
his
it's
book
speculation,
too.
and so which is a little bit of a critique. I'm a great admirer of his.
Of course,
man, and he has been brave to. Yeah. But I think you have to understand there is a high degree. Now he backs everything he says up with Scripture, but still there's a high degree of speculation that I'm not always comfortable entering into. I think you can come to a conclusion based on what's in Scripture. Will there be animals in heaven? Probably so. God made the animals. Why wouldn't there be animals in heaven? And other things like that. Then you get into the questions, because a lot of times people approach Revelation and the description of heaven rigidly, literally. Is every road going to be literally built out of gold bricks? Probably not. I think that's just figurative language, though some disagree with that. The walls are really going to be jasper and the gates are really going to be made out of pearl. I just think that tends to be figurative language to describe the excessive beauty of heaven in a way that is at least remotely understandable to us, to communicate to us, this place is going to be out of bounds. It's so great.
Yeah.
We can't even put it into words. So we'll delve into a little bit of that along the way. But what I'm trying to do is help people develop something of a complete theology of heaven. Mm-hmm. What must we know about heaven? Which kind of gets into what we talked about on Sunday morning, which was, much more from a practical standpoint. Why is heaven important to my life today? Mm-hmm. Well, you want to keep it in mind.
Yeah.
Because if you live with the end in mind, it will necessarily affect your actions, attitudes, words, responses to life, to the good things and to the tough things of life today.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to let heaven get out of mind, and you don't want it to be something that you rarely, if ever, think about. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to challenge particularly the younger people of our church who tend to not think much of heaven because they don't think they're ever going to die. You think you're immortal when you're 16, 18, 22, 24.
Yeah, or it's so far down the road that we don't have to worry about that now. It won't even be an issue.
Yeah, the older you get, the more it becomes an issue.
Right.
You realize, okay, I don't have that much time. Whatever it is I need to be doing, I need to get serious here. And I'm at the stage in life where I just am becoming really sensitive to wasting time. Mm-hmm. I don't want to waste time. Yeah. I want to be like Jonathan Edwards, who when he was a young man in his 20s, made this list of like 70 resolutions, personal resolutions. And I've got them all written down somewhere in my files. But, one of them, and he started all of them with resolved.
Yeah.
That's a guy in his 20s. Now, Jonathan Edwards was probably the most important American theologian of all time. He is on the Mount Rushmore of American theologues and has the biggest image on Rushmore. A brilliant scholar. And on one of those personal resolutions that he made again in his 20s, resolved, and I can't get the verbiage just right, but never to waste 1 minute of time. And I thought, man, I waste a lot more than a minute a day.
Exactly.
A lot more.
Exactly.
And the temptations, the cell phones, the computers, the entertainment venues, all of those things feed into an enormous waste of our time. Yeah. We fritter away a lot of time. So I'm trying to get a whole lot better than that. And one of the things that I have started doing is basically sending, because my wife goes to bed typically much earlier than I do, particularly on the days that she's having to work, and sending the phone to bed with her. Seriously, sending the phone to bed with her. Take this with you. And go ahead and plug it in on my bedside table.
Done with it. Yeah.
Be done with it for the night. And usually from that point forward, I'm making it my practice to read.
Yeah.
And usually that's only about 20 minutes. And then,
But that 20 minutes adds up.
But it adds up.
I know how much
that's
you
right.
read.
Over time.
You're a reader for sure.
And usually longer than that.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to be a whole lot more intentional. And then especially about spiritual things too. Wanting every moment to count. Because heaven is coming.
That's good.
And it'll be here for all of us probably sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I think my takeaway word from Sunday was longing. We're longing for heaven. We're longing for Jesus and having that yearning to be there. And like you said, it comes more into focus the closer we get to it.
Have you ever known anybody who, when you brought up subject of heaven, Christian people, I'm talking about Christian brothers and sisters, when you brought the subject of heaven, it's almost like they couldn't change the subject fast enough.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like for a lot of people, and this tends to be true the younger that we are, I think that the older and more seasoned you get, the more you kind of enjoy talking about heaven and the more you want to know about heaven. But I've known a lot of people, there is just such a connection between heaven and death.
Right.
I had a young bride-to-be was going through pre-marriage counseling. And she was insistent, like on day one, can I see a copy of the vows that you intend to use? And I'm thinking, well, we hadn't talked about anything yet.
Right. What?
And I want to see what the vows are. Well, normally it's something like this. And she did not want me to say one word about death.
Till death do you part.
Didn't want it.
No.
I don't want that. And I thought, well, why? So then I began to probe. Something's not right here. But she didn't want a word about death at all. And I think sometimes that's the case. And so I have met a few professing believers along the way who didn't even want to discuss heaven because for them that meant having to give up something that they're presently enjoying and wanting to have a whole lot more of before. There'll be a time that we talk about that, but I don't want to talk about that right now. But you'll soon get over that if you live long enough. But I think that it's so important, regardless of your age, as you said a moment ago, Jim, that we develop not only an awareness of heaven, but a longing for heaven.
Yeah.
Something that we're not afraid of, that it's going to be infinitely better than even our very best here.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of an attitude is something that glorifies God because it will inevitably affect how you live for Christ in the here and now.
Absolutely.
And when you got a longing for heaven, you'll be a better evangelist, you'll be a better discipler, you'll be a better husband, you'll be a better wife, you'll be a better father, mother, you'll be a better friend.
That perspective, yeah.
Because, God is, He doesn't balance the books every day, but He does keep a record,
Yeah.
And you want your life to count for things that are eternal. So I do think it matters.
It does.
And so that's one of the reasons that we're talking, and why I slipped that little message that we did on Sunday into the repertoire for this series.
Yeah. I think for me the most impactful conversations with that idea in mind was my dad died in 2006. And he had from cancer, and so he knew he was terminal. There was not a lot left to do, and having those conversations, there was a longing for that in him, because that's the real perspective, and it's hard for a lot of people to talk about death. I know it can be difficult, and I'm not trying to bring that up just for emotion, but having his perspective to say, I'm at the end of my time, whether it's tomorrow or in a month or a year from now, I'm coming close and I'm longing for the next step, because he was confident, he was secure, he knew, he was faithful, not perfect, but he was faithful. And so having those conversations with him, although it was difficult, was kind of that perspective of, wow, he's anxious for the next thing, not to get on with it, not to rush it, but to get to the next thing, which was that. It was a neat way to spend the time with him. And I carry that now, because it's been 20 years, but I carry that with him now, knowing that was what he was looking forward to. And that's what struck me on Sunday, was that kind of perspective. If we're there or we're not there next week, next month, next year, or 20 years or whatever, having that idea of I'm anxious for the next thing. And that's what we're given, I think, with what you shared on Sunday, was that perspective of, it's a good thing to look forward to if you are in Christ, if you are secure. Yeah. And if you're not, you need to be.
I hope it made sense.
It did. I think it really did.
Yeah, I hope it made sense, because I think, you announced this series and people they're wanting you to draw a map of what heaven's going to look like, be like. Yeah. What are we going to experience? I don't know. I've never been. So that's almost an impossible thing to do. Yeah. What I'm trying to do is to make sure people are aware of it. Yeah. Have an appropriate image of their mind and understanding of what it is theologically, how it affects our life today. And then once we've done that, I'm going to be talking about the myth of universal salvation this coming Sunday. Do all roads lead to heaven? In one sense, we've already addressed that with the John 14 passage a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. But I'm going to, because I think the predominant view in the world and the predominant view in America,
for sure,
is that not only do all dogs go to heaven, but that all good people go to heaven.
Yeah,
now, most people would qualify it. Everybody's going to go to heaven except the really bad people, the stinkers, are not going to go there.
As long as I'm better than them.
That's right. But, most tend to be somewhat universal, leaning heavily against the love of God, totally overlooking the justice of God, the holiness of God. And they, sometimes they'll even proof text it from Scripture. But, it's interesting, according to Pew Research, almost half of Americans who identify as Christians believe that even atheists go to heaven.
Wow.
Half of people who say, I'm a Christian, half believe that an atheist,
wow,
somebody that doesn't even believe in God, can go to heaven. So it's an issue.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do on Sunday is build a biblical case against universal salvation, or to state it more positively, a biblical case for particular salvation, which obviously is in and through Jesus Christ and his work on the cross.
As he said.
Yeah.
This will be good. And good to invite someone to. That'll be good.
This is a good one because we will dispel a lot of myths. And
I'm not saying everybody will like it. I'm not saying it's going to be an ice cream sermon, but it's going to be something important. If you have people that aren't sure or maybe kind of on the fence about something like this will be a great way to.
If you don't,
they're going to hear the gospel.
If you don't believe, most people think that all people go to heaven. You haven't been to enough funerals.
Yeah.
Because at a
I didn't
funeral,
even go into that. I know.
At a funeral, everybody goes to heaven.
Exactly.
When was the last time you were at a funeral and people were so sorry that Uncle Charlie died and went straight to hell? That never happens. Everybody goes to heaven.
Everybody
at a funeral.
goes to heaven. We talk so good. I had a professor in seminary say, "Don't you dare preach them into heaven. If they're not there, don't say that because you're not being." Okay, we don't have time to go down that road. But come
it's going to
Sunday,
be a good sermon. I'm praying that it will be
a
a good and a helpful sermon.
Yeah.
I like the word helpful. A helpful message. And then along the way too, as we were talking about before we went on camera, I'm planning a message on the veracity of NDEs, near-death experiences. Yes, can you trust them? Are they real? Some of these guys are selling books by the million based on their trip to heaven and back. So we need to talk a little bit about that, and not to give anything away, but I think it'll be an interesting discussion. And I'm not an expert on the paranormal, though I have watched a few episodes of The X-Files.
And you watched the Amityville Horror, so apparently
I did watch the Amityville Horror.
That's a callback. That's what we do. That's what we call a callback in this business. Way to wrap it up. Way to bring it back around. Okay, we don't recommend to watch that, and we do recommend you come to church on Sunday, or at least watch us online. If you can't do either of those, join us next week on The Locker Room. We'll talk a little bit more about what gets you to heaven and what does not get you there. So thanks again, as always.
Thank you, Jim.
Appreciate Gavin for filling in last week for me. Glad to be back. Thanks for everyone. Thanks for the crowd that we gather to watch us. We love you all. We're here to help. If we can do that, you can always email us, podcast@hillcrestchurch.com. Until then, we will see you next time in The Locker Room. God bless you.